ought not to, dishing out negative advice in English. Hello, English learners. In today's lesson, we're diving into a very specific, yet important part of the English language, giving negative advice using ought not to. Whether you're trying to help a friend make a decision or discussing what could have been done differently, understanding how to correctly use ought not to can be an extremely useful tool in your English learning journey. In English, we use ought not to give advice about something that is not a good idea or something we think someone should not do. It's similar to using should not, but ought not to is more formal and less commonly used in everyday speech. Let's take an example. If your friend is considering taking up smoking, you could advise him by saying, "You ought not to start smoking. It's bad for your health." The structure when using ought not to is quite simple. Here it is: subject plus ought not to plus base form of the verb. For example, she ought not to skip breakfast. In this sentence, she is the subject, ought not to is our advice-giving phrase, and skip is the base form of the verb. Now you might wonder, what's the difference between ought not to and should not? Can they be used interchangeably? While both phrases are used to give negative advice, they're not entirely the same. Should not is generally more common and slightly less formal than ought not to. So if you're in a formal or academic setting, you might choose to use ought not to for its slight edge in formality. But in most everyday situations, should not would be your go-to phrase. Remember, practice makes perfect. Try making sentences using ought not to with different subjects and verbs. Here's an exercise to get you started. 1. We, blank, eat so much junk food. 2. You, blank, stay up late on school nights. 3. They, blank, ignore their homework assignments. Fill in the blanks with ought not to and the base form of the verbs given in brackets. We've reached the end of our lesson on using ought not to for giving negative advice. Keep practicing and soon enough, you'll be doling out advice like a pro. Remember, language learning is a journey, not a race. So take your time and enjoy the process. Until next time, happy learning.